theme song for the Get Podcast. G'day, Uncle Liam. What you doing, mate? What's going on?
Sung like a true singing guitar player right there, Troy. Fantastic. How are you?
It's been a busy week, mate. It's been very busy. When did we talk last? It was Friday, wasn't it?
Yeah, and today, at the time of recording, is Thursday, so it's been
Yeah.
less than a week.
But you know what
It's been a busy week, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, but you know what was good, mate? You know it was good? What'd you do
What was
Sunday
good?
night? What'd you do Sunday night, hey?
Oh, what did I do on Sunday night, Troy? That's a good question.
What
I
did you
think
do
I,
from
fe- I
Go on.
feel like there was something involving, highly technical skill, but not guitar playing.
No,
More,
still need your
more
fingers.
Nintendo related.
Oh, mate. Bit of Quinn's Rocks v Nolamara on Mario Kart.
The ultimate turf war.
Yep. So that was fun. That's how how you spend your Sunday nights when you're in your mid-30s. You just drink some wine and play Nintendo. It was
Yeah, oh, it's
sick.
awesome, man. Mario Kart, like, it's just the best, and the amount of fun that you can have, and the amount of, let's say, I don't know if it could. Your experience was 100% fun, but you lent into it. The
Mhm.
injustice served out by computer is
Yep.
always something hard to deal with.
Yep. It's a bloody wonderful thing, mate. New levels as well. I was getting pretty sick and tired of those old ones, I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
actually, and new characters. Oh, by the way, I think we were talking about one of the new characters. They are from Super Mario Odyssey, which is a great game if anyone hasn't played it. And the cooperative mode on it is really, really satisfying. Like, you can turn into a T-Rex. So that's just
Yep.
a thing you can do in that game. It's awesome.
Who's
Switch is sick.
Pauline? Is it she from that?
She's, yeah, she's like, there's a level in there which is kind of like a New Yorkie kind of thing. And she's, I think, the mayor. So that's where she comes in. You got to do
Gotcha.
like a bunch of kind of quests and stuff like that. The usual song and dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really should replay it again. It's a super super fun game.
Well, before we
Before
wrap
we,
up, yeah, I was going to say, needless to say, your wife was cheating constantly, which is why she won every game. And
well, she was pretty terrible at Mario Kart until I had to basically go away, and then she just smashed Mario Kart and got way better than all of us.
yep,
So there's a lesson in that, a
yep.
big lesson in that.
Practice
But
makes perfect. Spite makes perfect.
Exactly, exactly. Before we delve into general podcasting topics, there are a
Yep.
few questions and things from last week that I did want to pick up from the comments, and we did do a little live stream on there.
Yep.
But yeah, there were a few really, really cool pieces of gear that people bought up in there. No surprise about the TC 2290 pedal,
Mhm.
and people have been asking me when I'm going to demo that, and I don't know. I'd need to go out and actually find one here, and
Yep.
because we basically live on the moon, no stock at the moment. There's also the Universal Audio Lion. They're kind of plexi in a box, which
Mhm.
is probably the most interesting one of those that I've heard. Yeah, bunch of people getting all in on the 2290. And shout out to Bob Guido, who I chat to quite a bit and get super nerdy with reverb and delay. And I know you're listening to this, Bob, so loves the original 2290, and we've talked about accurate representations of that. So when I do get my hands on the pedal, we'll have to basically do an episode about that, because it's an awesome unit, and I'm really, really keen to try the pedal. And there was some also, we were talking about the EMT reverbs and gold foil plates on there.
Oh, yep.
So Bob weighed in and basically said the EMT 250, it's used on a lot of Brian Eno's early ambient records. But here's the connection, Tondi. So Barry Blesser is one of the grandfathers of digital reverb algorithms, and Blesser helped start Lexicon with David Gressinger. And I've heard of David
right.
Gressinger's work before, but yeah, so the EMT stuff is kind of like a precursor to the 224 by Lexicon. So
Oh, there you go.
there you go. That's a really, really, really cool connection in there. And yeah, a few other people we were talking about Fab Filter Pro R2, which I just downloaded. I haven't tested it yet.
Yeah, I need to get into that.
Yeah.
I got the
And
new software, didn't I? Oh, yeah, I did. Melodyne is boring. Anyway, go on.
yeah,
Sorry.
I think we talked about that last week, which was cool on
Did
there.
we?
So
We did,
yeah, and then a few people talking about the custom classics, the AC30s in there. I feel like we should do an episode or episodes in the future. Maybe do one like just about classic Marshalls, one just about classic Vox amps, and talk talk about the recordings they're on and how you use them. That might be a cool little thing to dive into.
Love it. Sounds bloody ripper, mate.
So yeah, thanks to everybody who continues to watch and listen to the Gear Podcast. And if you've got suggestions for future episodes, let us know in the comments section over here. And that's all I had to say about that, Troy. I feel like I've really dominated the space so far. So you've been busy recording this week and gigging, right?
I sure have. You know what else I've been doing? I washed my hair this morning and it looks great.
I washed mine last night, so we're on the sink.
What's your wash cycle?
Oh, about a week.
Well, yeah, I'm a bit more than a week, maybe 10 days.
A bit more than a week. I saw someone left a. They were like disgusted when I mentioned that I take about a week to wash my hair. They're like, "Why would you do this? That's filth." It's like, bro.
You should ask your mum or your wife or your girlfriend or your sister about it. Because
I mean, look, if I was aerodynamic, then yeah, I'd probably wash the skin on my head every single day.
Yep.
But you know, I'm far less aerodynamic, so there's a little ecosystem up there which is pretty self-regulating. I've heard of people who wash it once a month, you know, and it takes a while for that cycle to regulate. Or you remember Moroccan oil being the thing?
Oh, of course I do.
I just
2012.
remember you being like, I've got it, Moroccan oil.
Yeah, I found a bottle of it in a bag, like a little bag I hadn't opened in about 8 years, and there was inside. I reckon I took that bag to like a mine site gig, took the Moroccan oil with me,
right.
And it stayed in there for the whole time. And I threw the bag out, but found the Moroccan oil, and I've been using it. It's been.
But there you go, bring it back.
I'm using it today. This is all natural, you know. Bit of but double shampoo, single condition. That's the hot tip, everybody. If you got long hair. But moving on from that, because I just need to comment on it because I'm looking at myself. I can't stop looking at myself. Jesus Christ. Peaks, alpha specimen over here. I shouldn't talk like that. It's so stupid.
It's fabulous, mate.
But no, I've been doing a bunch of recording. I've been doing a bunch of mixing. I've been building a pedal board. So it's been a bit of a week,
what's
mate.
On a pedal board?
Well, I think I mentioned it last week. It's for
because no one cares about actual music here.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, so I just got asked to build a pedal board. This client of mine went and bought all the bits, and we went back and forth on what she needed from it. And yeah, all the stuff arrived maybe 2 weeks ago, and I really only had time this week to get stuck into it. But it's some stuff that she already had, some new stuff without like dragging it up here because I'm looking at it on the ground at the moment. But some wires are still not like super neat and tidy, so I don't want to like, you know, what's that guy? You know, that guy from that pedal company, he has that YouTube channel building pedal boards, the Vertex guy. His stands will come on here and be like, what's that guy's name? Anyway,
I don't think he has a lot of stands, to be honest, bro. You know, when you sell other people's products as your own multiple times and you know, inflame the guitar community, you know.
He does nice cabling work at least. So
yeah, his cabling work, if he does it, is great. So whoever's doing that cabling work, it's better than anything I can do. But
well, anyway, back to this pedal board.
Without diving into that, well,
that's a different episode.
So what bits did you need to add to it to get it functional?
So there was already. I'll walk you through the signal flow. I'll just talk it through. So guitar comes into a Polytune Mini, then it goes to a Crybaby Wah, then into a Katana Boost. Keeley Katana Boost, then into a Nordvang, I think it's called a gain, triple gain or something like that. There's 3 switches. Then into a Thorpe, the Dane pedal, then into a Brown Audio Protein, and then that goes into an HX Stomp. And then in the loop of the HX Stomp, there is first a MXR carbon copy, then a Strymon Flint, and then a Boss loop station, and then back into the HX Stomp. And then that goes that's all like, rig. Yeah, it's a very good pedal. There's a lot of boosts on there. There's a lot of drives. There's a lot of tonal variations. If you want something that isn't available on the pedals, then you've got all the drives available in the HX Stomp. It's like I've just played it for about 3 minutes before. Like once I established it was working, I jammed on it for a little bit. It sounds awesome. There's a couple of things about it though. Firstly, we've got a couple more things. All powered by 2 Strymon power supplies. So there's a Zoomer that's doing like the big one that's doing a lot of pedals, and then there's a little Ohio. So she already had 2 of the Ohio's. But this is one thing I didn't check first, as in I didn't plug it in to test it. But the 2 Ohio's offered 10 outputs, and there's
I see.
10 pedals worth of inputs on it. The HX Stomp, because of its the power that it
Ah,
needed, according to the internet, needed the voltage divider thing, or the voltage in, the two in one guy.
yep. The
So
double banger.
yeah, and so like it's a bit of a pain. Like thankfully, I had a lot of these adapters all ready to go. Um, which might have to like solder the cable together. But to get the HX Stomp into this Zoomer was like, firstly, you use the converter, like 2.1 to 2.4 converter or whatever that one is, a 2.5 converter. Then you've got to go into a polarity reverse connector. Then you go into a patch lead, and then you go into the voltage splitter. So just to get the thing working, it's like a series of cables. However, it's so like before I got the Zoomer, I tried to shove all of the cabling under the board, like so it would have been the normal HX power supply, the Strymon power supply section, a double adapter so I could get multiple things in there. Because the thing I haven't mentioned yet, so it's all on a Warwick or rock board.
I was
The
going to
four.
say, because you like the rockboard stuff, hey? You
Yeah,
use
I
it?
do. I just like it because, firstly, it's light. Secondly, it's pretty inexpensive. Thirdly, there's a lot of accessories available for it. Some of which I used on this, which was awesome. And yeah, you can just get them anywhere. And if you want to get a hard case for it, you can get a hard case. If you want to get a soft case, you can get a soft case. Like it's all pretty. I mean, of course you can do that, but like that's readily available and not like, oh, I've got to wait for 2 weeks to get something delivered or coming from overseas. I just kind of
Yep.
like that aspect of it. So it's um, I saw Bob Bradshaw did a video using the rock boards as well, and I thought, well, if it's good enough for Bob Bradshaw, it's probably good enough for me. So we were
Exactly.
originally looking at doing it on a pedal train, I think it was, but the rock board, I think the rock board is just like a good board. So, and again, the weight thing, I just don't like stuff to be super heavy. So the thing I have mentioned is there's a the Mod One patch bay, the Warwick or the rock
Yep.
board Mod One patch
That's
bay.
the other thing with the Warwick stuff. And sorry, look, my normal chair, one of the wheels is busted, so I've got a different chair today, and it's super creaky. And I'm just remembering why I stopped sitting on this chair when I record things, because
Mate,
just
I
constant
do.
moaning and groaning,
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the moaning
like
and
people's
groaning.
neighbors. I put together a
So,
board this week, which I'll grab while you're saying that.
well, yeah. So the Mod One, this is a big part of this board, and I'll explain why. So, firstly, the I'm using the IEC or the kettle cord output to power the whole board, so that makes it nice and
Yep,
easy. But having the 5 straight like jack through patch points means that um, the main output of the HX Stomp is connected to one of the rock board outputs, but then I've also got an effects loop set up within the Mod One as well. So I have to make some patches to do this within the HX Stomp because it won't. Well, I mean, it's not that difficult to do, but I'll basically make some templates for them to
nice.
use when they need to do certain tasks. But yeah, I have a similar sort of setup that I use for my own gigs, as I probably discussed before, using an HX Stomp and using Rockboard and using the patch bay and all this sort of bullshit. And I use the Morningstar. So there's a MIDI controller on this one, but that's not super necessary. But what's awesome is that if you want to use it for like, if you just want to plug headphones into this thing, like the board in and of itself will work. And
That's
because the
great.
HX Stomp is the last thing in the chain, so you can just do that. You can put your amp sims on there, like in the Stomp, and then that becomes the rig. If you wanted to use the entire thing in front of a guitar amp, so you can do that. That's very, very
That's
straightforward.
awesome.
If you wanted to use it in a way that you 4 cable method it, that's why there's an external like the patch bay is connected
That's
to
awesome.
the FX loop return. So you can just do anything you want with it, and all it takes is loading the correct patch, like in the Stomp. So there's like, I think like I just scrolled through all the presets that were saved in it because I didn't plug it into the USB yet, but there's like 128 patches in this thing, or 127 patches, or however many it is. Like there only happened to be like 4 that weren't used with something.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's, and like a bunch of them are factory ones, so you just get rid of those. But yeah, the last 3 or 4, I'll just set up a couple of templates, and yeah, off you go. It's easy as that. And said you can just load up the preset when you want to do it for a gig. You can still have your song list in there if you want to do it like that. Be pretty sick. But yeah, just like before I look at your board, like I just love signal flow. I
Yeah,
always talk about signal flow, and when we're going back and forth on this pet on the board, discussing how we want to put it together, um, I really wanted to make use of the effects loop, like the effects loop in the stomp, because at least in terms of the signal flow side of it, putting the stomp at the very end, like to have that headphone capability, is more useful
Yeah,
than maybe you'd
that's
think,
really clever.
or running it direct into your like to front of house if you want to run it like that. It just is. I think it's just more simplistic, and you've got like an overall level control on the board that's really easy to see and like turn that up.
Yeah,
So, yeah, man, it's like it's all coming together. But I just trying to run. Like I bought the pedal risers as well. Maybe I just mentioned that before,
yeah,
but something about like when I first got my 4.1 board and I didn't have the risers on there, I was really struggling to hit the back pedals. So one thing I did with this one versus my one on my board, I just velcroed them on there, or I used the dual lock. This time I actually properly screwed them down, and it's made
nice.
quite a big difference. But I actually originally put them in the wrong position. I kind of like offset it from like about maybe 2 or 3 centimeters from the very top edge of the board, so that it's easy to feed the cables up through it, because that sort of that made sense
Given
to
that
do.
one.
That made sense for me, but it didn't. A, it didn't look that neat, and B, once I got everything on there, the risers kind of have a big hole in the middle, so you can sort of feed stuff through.
I
It didn't look
see.
like it would be that intuitive, but because the dual lock gives you just enough height, because it's quite tall Velcro, it's enough to just slip cables underneath. Um, and yeah, thankfully, I'd actually intended to make a bunch of patch leads for this, because I've got a bunch of the Megami cable and connectors and stuff. So I was going to like completely wire it with you know the online community approved cable, whichever Megami. I think it's 2314, maybe it is.
Yeah, that
But
sounds about
she
right.
had a lot of the EBS like flat cables, which yeah, there was exactly the required amount, and they're pretty much the right size, and there's some tight spots in this, so that just worked really really well. So yeah, anyway, hopefully it won't take that much longer before this thing's done and she can go out and blast it and have some fun with it. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
It seems
What
nicely modular as well. So, like, if you want to change drives or something like that, it's
Oh, absolutely.
easy
You
cake.
can like we've already discussed it. Like the katana boost on there is fine, but you could easily get rid of that and put something else in there if you like a fuzz or a different boost. Or when you've got like three very high quality drive pedal slash boost pedal things on your board, after like a month or 2 months of using it every day, you might find you only need one of them or two of them. So this stuff's all
Yes.
pretty like sellable if you want. So
Yeah,
anyway,
and even if you just have one that you use at the gigs, but then if you're recording and you want to use those other two slots for like things that sound disgusting, that can be kind of cool as well.
yep, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, I
So
mean, like
tell
for
me about
me,
your
I
board,
don't
mate.
need a board like that live because it's all fractal, but I do like having stuff
Tactile.
here that, yeah, exactly, that you can just kind of link in. So this is the
Yep.
current state of the studio
Mm.
board um, for people interested in this kind of thing. Why isn't it focusing? There you go. So I bought, where are we? Dig. Like, it's my favorite delay pedal, and they do a V2 now with presets
Mhm.
and MIDI. So I just bought one to
Yep.
stop complaining. Wrong way around. UA Golden, because having a reverb pedal that does all the kind of vanilla reverbs really, really well is great, and the 224 mode in there is sick. What do we have here? And then from your homeland, mate, GFI Synesthesia coming out of Indonesia, amazing mod pedal. And what's this? The Strymon Ultraviolet. Just because I like Univibe, and I've been listening to heaps of Robin Trower. And the kind of all star on here is the Chocks.
Oh,
I have
yep.
this hi-fi mod. Like, it just is so easy. You need 18 volts. Boom. Flick a couple of switches. You can expand them, and it's on a Temple. I think it's a Solo on here.
Mhm.
It's the same board that I have my FM3 mounted on,
Oh, yep.
and I should really just get a much bigger one because I've got. They use the little attachment
Yep.
units, so you don't have to use Velcro, which does make it really easy to swap things in and out. It just means that like I've got a bunch of pedals with these things on the back. I don't know if I love them or if I'm indifferent to them. It's sometimes it's awesome because you're just like, oh cool, I want to swap out that pedal, kind of
Yep.
slot straight on. But on a smaller board, you know, that's you're always fighting for space. I think if I had one of the big ones and I could just have loads of pedals on there for a studio board, I might enjoy that even more. But
You know, I
yeah,
really liked
all these things are really good.
yeah, I really liked Michael Nielsen's pedal board that he had in his old studio. I'm not sure if he's got a similar sort of thing now because I haven't really well, haven't seen one of video where he's like featured it for a little while. But there was like just the using the looping and all that sort of stuff in there as well, the loop switcher.
Yes.
That all seemed pretty well laid out and pretty well designed. Yeah, I really like. I've got it here, like James Lugo's idea of the pedal board that is
The
actually,
Lugs.
yeah, it's actually mounted in a place that you can see it.
I think that's so
It's
awesome for the studio, man. Like,
yeah, and this is, I mean, this is another Warwick Rockboard 4.1, which I've got a True Tone CS12 mounted under it, so that's powering. It's enough to power the Strymons. It's enough to power like normal pedals and whatnot. Um, and yeah, it's on one of these like on stage. I think it's on stage is the brand, like rolling cart things. So just yeah,
yeah, right.
it's so easy to move around, man.
That's sick,
And
man.
it's got hooks on the bottom too for my guitar cables. So it's little things, little things that make me so happy when it all
Remember
works.
when,
It's
did you ever
exciting.
go into a music store where they have the Boss display, which was all of the pedals all connected in series and headphones so you could just plug them in and out?
I do remember that. Yeah, Concept Music
Yeah.
doing that, and I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
convinced I needed an acoustic Boss acoustic guitar pedal. You know, the acoustic simulator.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
I think there's still people using those like
mm.
in professional touring like I'm sure Opeth were using one for a while because it was just like, yeah, you need the acoustic sound, you just plug this in and it's enough. But I
Man,
guess
do you know
nowadays with modelers and IRs,
what's awful is did you ever have you never had a Marshall AVT like
no.
AVT 150? Did you ever play them?
Yeah, I've definitely played one before though.
Yeah, so as a school that I like once a year I do this big music festival, like school's concert music festival thing, and the school provides a lot of the amps, and they've got two Marshall AVT 150 like half stacks, so you know I think it's 4x10s
And
maybe.
do kids plug acoustics into them?
No, they well no, but the I had the 3 channel one, the AVT 100 when I was a kid when I was in year 12, and the clean sound on that was alright. Still, your drummer Cam, his favorite guitar sound was
Metal zone into
um,
that.
Metal Zone. Yep, into that amp. But the
He's a man of
distortion
great
on it,
taste.
yeah, the distortion on it is pretty rough. Like it's real like kind of tubby sounding, and it's not really it doesn't have a lot of chunk to it. But in classic early 2000s Marshall fashion, it has that like mega scoop switch on it, so it sounds all awful and buzzy. However, that's not what I was going to complain about because the bigger one, so the ABT 150, has 4 channels. Channel 1 is the acoustic simulator. Channel 2 is the clean. Channel 3 is the dirt, and then Channel 4 is your like more dirt basically. Um, but yeah, I'll do this schools concert, and they want a clean sound. So instead of hitting the clean channel, I'll hit like the acoustic simulator channel.
Ah,
And it's
yeah, yeah.
just so rubbish, man. It's awful. But when I was in year 12, I was like, yeah, like I was really jealous because I think Gareth had the 150, friend of the channel, Gareth, and I had the 100. And I was like, no, I want to play my Incubus songs with this
Yeah,
acoustic
exactly. You
simulator.
are Mike Einziger with that.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it was not meant to be. You know, I've not kept up with his pedal board, Mike Einzinger from Incubus, because
Speaking of great pedal boards.
well, the last time I looked at it, which was a good 5 to 10 years ago, it was the same pedal board he'd toured since like the late 90s or something, or the early 2000s. Like the same like bunch of DOD pedals and Boss like phases and flanges and stuff. It's
On
like
that sort of like
mm, it looks like a great arc.
yes. What can I see on there? Uh,
Surely it would have
actually,
changed by now, but
yeah, I'm
um,
seeing a few photos of a more modern thing.
mhm.
Yeah, okay. It looks like, he's got an HX effects on there. Is this, no, or is this somebody else?
And he
No
was
idea
running
whose board this
tremor
is.
verbs, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Or recto verbs, maybe.
I
No, I
think
think
the
it's tremor
tremor
verbs.
verbs,
Yeah.
yeah, because they're often considered one of the better, if not the best, classic rectos. And when I think
Mm.
of recto tones, I often think of like some of those just incubus riffs where they're just
Yep.
playing those sus2 chords in drop D, and it's just this wall of
Oh
absolute
man,
crunch.
I was listening to Linkin Park after my gig the other
Oh,
night. I was just in the
another
mood
great
for it.
rectotone.
Well, it's so funny. Like all those bands. I think I was listening to that on Tidal, and then it must have gone to the radio after that. And there was like Seether was on there, and
Oh, yep,
Stain, and all these
yep,
bands. And yeah, I was just like, they all have not the exact same guitar sound, but the same sort of riffs. And I was like, yeah, this is. I haven't aged basically in 20 years. I can still
yeah.
you put a Linkin Park song on, you're just gonna have a good time
You
as
you
long as
put
you're
on
not, you
paper
know.
cut and you get your skateboard out and you cut sick.
So like all I'm doing, man, is I'm regressing to different parts of my youth. Like the other
Yeah.
week it was Anne Boleyn. Now it's like, well, I hated Linkin Park when I was in high school because I thought it was lame because the rapping was really lame.
One
Um,
thing, I don't know why. The rapping was the best bit, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Rap rock.
Rap rock. Who
It
did it
wasn't
better?
new metal, it was rap rock.
Was it? Was actually? Is that actually what they said?
I remember reading heaps of articles about rap rock, and they'd put like Rage Against the Machine and Linkin Park in the same sentence. And you listen to
Mm,
them and you're like, well, they don't sound that similar.
okay, I kind of get it, but
One guy
I just
really, really is mad at his dad, and the other guy's really, really mad at the government. Maybe they're the same thing.
yeah, that's yeah. Oh, well, there you go. What was I going to say? Rectos. Oh, unrelated, Uncle Leon. I'm like this close. I'm waiting on a message, but this close to buying a Gretsch Renown drum kit.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
it's just waiting on some more information. But like, needless to say, I'll get it cheaper than what Cam paid for his by
Yeah,
quite a bit.
well, that's pretty good then.
Yeah,
That's very, very good.
just
And
waiting
they're
on it
great
to.
kits.
Oh man, it records really great, and I just want another kit in the studio because I
That's sick.
need stuff. I've got a wad of cash there from some stuff that I've sold. And I need to spend it on something,
Yeah,
and
exactly. You can't just
I,
sit around.
I just
You
keep
must
waiting.
acquire.
Yeah, it's like it's free money, mate. It's like it comes in, it goes out. It's not like I had to work for it. I just had to sell something that has been sitting there accumulating dust to buy something else that will sit there and accumulate dust.
It's
That
just taking up
power station
space.
is still there. So am I going to buy that? Who knows? Could I pay off my mortgage? Probably, but that's not fun.
But that's not what the Gear Podcast is all about.
No,
What the Gear
we're
Podcast
enablers.
sometimes is about off-topic gear things. And I've been having this conversation. Like I've been. This is so unrelated to what we're talking about, but I do want to talk about this because it relates
Yep.
to playing guitar. And this is way more your wheelhouse because you are somebody who you can go and play guitar on a gig, but you can also sing a gig. And I definitely could never sing a gig. Now, there's some guitar players who are amazing singers. They could easily just sing in a band on their own. There's other guitar players where, bro, don't go near a mic. That's more me. Then you've got this like very specific kind of, oh well, I'll just do it kind of guitar player. So there was some videos that popped up in my suggested feed on YouTube, and it was Gary Moore live at Pink Pop. So it's Neil Murray on bass, Don Airy on keys, Ian Pace on drums. Sick band. And like
Fuck yeah.
I was chatting to a friend of the channel, Ben Wilson, and we made the point that it's like, yeah, Gary Moore's like a guy who never skips leg day. Like he's playing like a Strat and a not like like an early JCM 800, and you know it would be the hardest thing in the world to play, and he's
Mhm.
just smashing the guitar. Like he's just dominating it. It's so good.
What gauge strings did he use? He was heavy, hey.
I have no idea. Probably.
I thought he was on really like 12s or something, but maybe that's just
Yeah.
a maybe
And I
I'm
was
getting
just
it
watching it,
mixed
just
up.
going, man, he's just so good. Like it's one of
Mhm.
those things where Corridors of Power. Like
Mm.
I've listened to that album so much, and it's one of those albums where learnt to play all of it by ear. It was just sort of
Mm.
like when I figured out I can listen to things and slow them down and do that. So yeah, that I still love that album. I love the sound of it. It's like such a like it's a great. It's obviously a Strat into a Marshall. You can just hear this like grind in the sound.
Is that
Um,
84 or
yeah,
later?
Corridors might have been like 82, 83. And then
Okay.
I forget which came first, Corridors of Power or Victims of the Future. But yeah, and there's also some really good concert footage of Victims of the Future, which is awesome. Like, um, And it sort of came up where I was like, this particular Pink Pop thing, you can just tell it would have been pus on stage, you know? Like, so he's kind of like, he's doing his thing. And like, everyone talks about Gary Moore's playing rightly because he's amazing. And his blues stuff, like, his voice really suits the material. And his rock stuff, like, I just don't know if he's good, you know? Because he can hit some notes and he always sounds like Gary Moore. But you know, is it one of those things where he just hated working with singers and he was good enough to get the job done? Like another guy like that is Pat Travis, where like
yeah.
Pat Travis band is sick, but also you listen to Pat Travis sing and you're like, oh, okay, cool. This is just he's getting it done, but it's not something you would listen to for the singing.
Yeah. But there's a lot of singers like that. No one, I don't know how many people really love the sound of Bob Dylan's voice, but
Oh
the
yeah,
message behind it, it's
yeah.
weird. I mean, like, and it's the sort of thing where with Gary Moore, you just kind of ignore it because the guitar playing is so good. It's just like a
But some of
part
his
of the
stuff's
music.
awesome as well. Like, you know, there's stuff where you're like, oh yeah, your voice really, really suits this. It's, you know, he's singing the notes,
Yep.
he's singing them in tune. Would it have been better if someone else did it? Well, we've got reference points because, you know,
Hmm.
he's on Thin Lizzy albums and like Phil Lynot's probably somebody. Well, it's such a fine thing, right? Because you think of Phil Lynott and you think of Thin Lizzy and you just go like,
Yeah.
yeah, awesome songwriter, awesome songs. He wasn't the most technically adept singer, but like when you hear his voice, it's just got character and vibe and it works.
Yep.
So like,
Yeah.
why is that cool? But some other stuff, maybe if you just listen to it in isolation, which I get isn't the point. But like, you listen to Pat Travis and you're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. You know, that's definitely singing. This is definitely rock music.
Yep.
But then you compare it to like, you know, when guitar gods decide to sing,
Yep.
and it's it's much different, right? So I figured it would be interesting to have a cross section of guitar players we admire and if they've ever sung on records or not. So like at the far end of the spectrum, there's got to be two: Richie Kotzen,
Yep.
where if you just know Richie Kotzen for his guitar playing, then you hear him sing, you go, "What the fuck?"
Yep.
Like, I hate you. How are you this
Yep.
good? And at the other end, George Lynch never sings. You know. Now they're both
Did
incredible musicians,
did
and but
George
like
Lynch ever sing BVs on Doc and stuff?
I don't know. This is a mystery. I've never seen him in front of a mic.
Yeah, he wouldn't. But like, well, you do this. Like, you'll set up a mic just to talk to the audience, not to sing a
Yeah,
backing
and,
vocal.
and sometimes just do some gang shouts. Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes I hear the backing vocal singing. I'm like, yeah, that's almost in tune. And other times it's like, not tonight.
Because, like, I don't know, back in the '80s, maybe they just would like try it. Oh, we gotta get another voice on this, and
Because
it was
Pilsen is sick.
he's amazing. Like, he's such a good singer.
Michael Anthony, sick.
Yep.
You know, like the bass players in these bands really kind of carried them. There's like lots of great singing bass players in history as well. Like
What's
Ronnie
Glenn
Dio
Hughes?
used to sing and play bass.
Is Glenn Hughes a singing bass player or a bass playing singer?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a very, very, very good question.
Oh,
Because
he must be a bass playing singer, surely.
yeah, yeah, I think that's Glenn Hughes. I was listening to a lot last week to Big Rec and Thornley,
Hmm.
um, and like, man, the Thornley albums have some like disgusting guitar sounds on them. They're really good, but like Ian Thornley's another like Richie Kotzen, where he's got that like Chris Cornell adjacent vocal tone. Like everything he sings just sounds nice, but then he can also just smash on guitar.
Yep.
So yeah, they're like in that. He's probably more a singer, even though he's an amazing guitar player. But like Kotzen has the freak show guitar stuff, right?
Yep.
And an incredible voice. George Lynch just never sings. It's cool. Tony Iommi, Randy Rhoads, Jimmy Page. These guys are like, they're just awesome enough to not have to ever sing.
Know your limitations. Yeah, play to your strengths.
Play to your strengths. I believe that's a Steve Vai quote, which is like, play to your strengths.
Oh, speaking of which,
Which is Joe Satriani rubbish, right? Like just
go down. Down,
Like,
down. That's the only thing I ever think of
like,
with the singing.
I'm not saying I could do any better, but like, objectively rubbish. Like pub, like Joe Satriani playing guitar, transcendental Hank Marvin on shred. Like just awesome to listen to. What was that song? Big Bad Moon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like could probably be in a good local ZZ Top cover band. That's the level he's operating at.
Yep.
I feel like Steve Vai's a bit better.
Yeah, there was that song "Rescue Me or Bury Me" on that Sex and
Yep,
Religion album. I was like, oh, he's not too bad. And I
there's
remember
that.
getting like Fire Garden. I think he sang on that quite a bit, and I was like,
There's a song called
yeah.
All About Eve, I think.
Oh yeah, that was. I remember that song. That
Yeah,
was
it's
cool.
like, you know, it's a character voice. Like he's there was I remember our mate Gazman saying, "Yeah, I've been compared to Hendrix vocally." As like a gag. Like Hendrix is
Yeah,
probably the poster boy for this, right? Like getting it done. He's
yeah.
getting it done. He probably didn't like his voice, but it was like, "Oi, Jimmy, you're just the sickest. Like, just sing and keep it easy."
Man, I remember when I was a kid not realizing that Jimi Hendrix was a shit singer until everyone kept saying it. I was like, what's wrong with him? Like he's fine. Like it's not bad. It's just that he's such a better guitar player than he's a singer. It's like one overshadows the other.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like his guitar playing. So maybe this is the metric, right? Not that you need metrics for all this stuff. We're just, like Gary Moore's a better singer and guitar player than I will ever be in my life. So, like, end of story. It's probably the same for Hendrix as well. Like, my singing will never be as good as Jimi Hendrix's singing. But, like, he's got a cool voice. That's what I like about him. When you hear him, you're like, yeah, that's fucking Jimi Hendrix, man. Like, this is sick.
Yeah. What about
And,
what about Ingve?
oh, terrible. Should not sing. you know, can sing in tune. So here's the battle royale. Who's worse, Satriani or Ingve? I actually
Um,
think I like Ingve a little bit better because Ingve's just like, he's all in, you know?
yeah,
Ingve's the guy at a pool party who is not self conscious about his body and he's getting his gear off and like bombing into the pool, you know?
man, have you seen that video of Chris Jericho?
No.
Like, yeah, it's pretty mean, but he's just doing his Jericho thing. But like, I don't want to fat shame the guy. He's like, he just looks like a unit now. His body shape has changed a little bit in the last couple of years. He's a very solid man, and as a wrestler, that's fine. But when he's like dancing around stage with his shirt off, he's been copping it a little bit online. It's
I mean, people shouldn't have to. There's a video of Fear Factory.
mhm.
I forget which festival it's off, but like, Dino Cazara's like not exactly a waifish male model type guy. He's got his shirt off, and in between one of the songs, he's basically like, look at me, like I've got my shirt off, I'm up here having a good time. Like, what's your excuse? Just like basically, who gives a shit? Like, just get into it. This is a metal gig, go
Yep,
mental. And it's like, you know, that's a good attitude to have. I'm like
yep.
all on board with this. But yeah, I mean, there's a great Chris Jericho story that maybe I'll tell for another time. But
Save it for
yeah,
Patreon.
who else?
Okay,
So we've
okay.
done a
Let me
bunch
ask.
of like Sling and Mud. Who's surprisingly good?
Okay, well, before we do that, where do you rank Paul Gilbert?
See, okay, we've kind of been evaluating these like great rock and metal guitar players and their attempt to sing like rock guys. So Steve Vai to me sounds like he's doing the Hendrix thing where he's like, oh, I have a character in my voice and I'll just explore that.
Yep.
Satriani is pub. Ingve is like inflated sense of self-worth. Paul Gilbert, I feel like Paul Gilbert likes the Beatles way more than I ever will.
Yep.
And knowing Paul Gilbert loves Todd Rundgren, I feel like Paul's surprisingly good and has got quite a bit out of his voice.
Sorry, 2 secs. I think like, oh my God, I'm a hot mess. Hot mess.
Too much
Coffee
coffee.
stuff. Too much coffee. Ugh, getting jittery. 2006, 2005, 2006, 2007. The amount of amount of hours consumed in my week of just Paul Gilbert's solo material. I
Spaceship One.
Spaceship One, Flying Dog, all these albums, and I liked them, and I don't know why I liked them because and not say that they're bad. I just don't really know what the hook was for me because it may have been that I wasn't listening to pop music at all. It
Yeah.
was just like complicated guitar music, and then I listened to a Paul Gilbert solo, and that was pop music to me. And I was like, oh, pop music's cool, but I can't like pop music because I like metal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so maybe that's why I listened to so much of it, because I don't think it was for the vocals. Definitely wasn't for the vocals. He wasn't like ripping all the time, so kind of wasn't for the guitar playing. Maybe it was just for general fanboying out.
Like, was
But
that
it's
just
like
an era for him where he was making so much money from the Mr. Big royalties where, like, he just do whatever he wants?
I don't know because like
Like,
those
he's just having
albums.
a good time?
I think his first solo album was like mid to late 90s, 96, 7, somewhere around there.
Yep.
And I think he had a studio in his house, and yeah, I think it was in his house. But anyway, like it was okay. Like in the songs, I liked a lot of the songs. As I said, I spent a long time listening to it. Nowadays, I'm not really that kind of keen to go and reinvestigate it, and I don't know if it's on streaming or not too. But yeah, he's like it's listenable. It's like not terrible. It's not going to blow you away. But yeah, it's not trying to be this great rock singer or anything. It's just it is what
Yeah.
it is, I suppose.
So all roads lead to the Golden God, right? Where I got into them for their guitar playing. And the guitar playing, we were talking about Gary Moore, where it's just like, this guy's just the sickest. You know what I mean? It's just like so good. And then you hear them sing, and you just also kind of like the Kotzen thing where you're like, you can also do that. And it's John Sykes, because he's got a great
Oh,
voice on those Blue Murder albums.
yeah.
And like his singing and the way he's like emoting is so similar to what he does on the guitar, which I think is so interesting. You know, I think
Yep.
the mental like dissonance of hearing Joe Satriani sing is that his guitar playing's so awesome, and it contrasts against this just like guy, just dad at a jam vibe. Whereas like with Sykes, it's like one to one. You know, you hear his like licks, and you're like, yeah, man, this guy's going hard. And then, you know, track 2 on the Blue Murder album, which we shall not repeat the name of for the algorithm. You know, just all the oohs and ahs, and like he's just sick. So yeah, he can more than adequately do both jobs on there, and the package deal is just incredible. So yeah, that was really surprising for me. There's a few others as well, but yeah, I'm keen to hear like someone you really like their guitar playing first, and then you got into their singing.
I'm trying to think if there's anyone else at the top of my head. I'll think about that. Let me just ask you one, just while we're on the subject of it. What's your vibe on John Mayer?
I mean, vanilla ice cream's nice,
Yeah,
and you know,
I mean,
like Connoisseur is the best vanilla ice cream. You know, again, like I actually just can't diss the guy because he's very, very good at what he does. But you know, maybe I want cookies and cream.
I just don't. I don't really care about John Mayer at all for any reason whatsoever. But his singing, his voice to me is not that good. His songs to me, like his like lyrics, and don't really do anything for me. And his guitar playing is like good, but it also doesn't do anything for me. So I just don't get it. Like I just don't get any aspect of it, and maybe that's a me problem. So
Yeah, it's kind
I
of
don't
like
know.
me watching the niche Marvel films where I'm like, who's this again? What do they do? And you know, if you're really into it, you're really into it. Stevie Ray Vaughan, good singer or not? Because
Yeah,
I feel like he's just someone who guts it out his entire career. And when you listen to him play guitar, you want to hear him sing as well. Like
yeah,
he drags you along with it, where it's like, you know, part of it, if he was just the singer in the band, you'd be like, yeah, he's okay. You know,
yep.
it's decent enough for a blues thing. And okay, out of, you know, and I don't know how much of this you've listened to, because I know how much you love like pure blues, but it's like the three kings, right? So you have BB King, Freddie King, Albert King. You know,
Yep.
who had the coolest voice?
I'm gonna abstain from that because
So
I
like
don't
BB King
have
could
enough
just like,
data.
I feel like his singing and his talking are so close, and his guitar playing, where it's just like, you know, it's just so inherently listenable. Like if you're gonna listen to somebody and you're gonna listen to the lyrics, and like, you know, you also forget he had like a million-year long career where most people know him for the mainstream stuff where he's like, ah, you're an old guy who's got all these great stories in a 335, but like his young stuff when he's like it's going in. Yeah, there's that's like a whole universe of like maybe that's the thing. It's like blues and blues rock. There is this thing where if you're passable as a singer, it's not about being good, it's
Yeah,
about conviction.
I think it's all one and the same. It's
Yeah.
all part of the one. You don't separate the vocal, you don't separate the guitar. You just like it's the entire performance is intertwined with the vocal and the guitar playing. I kind of feel like that with BB King.
Yeah.
Um,
Or
like
like
one like
someone who's a sick singer. Like, and then there's like the group of guys like Chris Rea. I love Chris Rea. Like, such a great voice. Really surprisingly good at guitar. Like Robert Cray as well is
Mhm.
someone who like their voice is just sick. You know, they're just these guys who like they've like the gift is the voice. You know,
Mhm.
there's things where you can't really learn those things, but then they've also you can. I feel like it's if you're willing to put in the work, it's easier to get good at guitar playing than it is at like singing. This is just my personal experience where I've spent like no percentage of my life practicing singing versus guitar. But you know, maybe it's a misconception, but I feel like most people who sing, it's because they notice or someone notices that they've kind of got something happening, even if it's really really raw. I don't know because I don't really believe in talent as the word of like, oh, just someone who's great at something is just talented. It's like, yeah, obviously, but there's obviously there's some precondition and there's like initial circumstances where it's like you might pick up guitar a bit faster and then get really into it, and then someone just watches you and you're like, oh, you're talented. That's cool. It's weird, hey?
Mm.
Like we kind of don't treat singers the same way we treat instrumentalists. I guess it's kind of different, but also kind of not.
I think the thing with singing is like to do it in the first place takes a lot of it's not skill, it's not charisma. What's the word I'm looking for? Selfishness, a confidence. That's the word I'm looking for,
Yeah,
confidence. Because it's it's like so different to stand in front of a group of people and like show that side more so than like, watch me just use a tool to
yeah, yeah,
show you how I feel. This is like the like my body and my mind and the thing that I speak with to just talk to you about the weather is also how I'm going to demonstrate my feelings. It's like so intertwined. So getting through that side mentally takes a very specific sort of person, and I either like ones that have something important to say or the ones that are delusional enough to think that everyone needs to hear what they have to say.
yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
they are the same person as well. Um, and the I think singing can be like definitely taught and it can be learned, but the like real icon, like I don't know, you
Troy,
could put
shall we say the X Factor element?
man. I mean, I don't want to say that but it's kind of true in this case. Like there's certain voices, there's certain like could you teach someone to sing like Ariana Grande? Previously, I would have said Mariah Carey. Let's say Mariah Carey because that
Yeah,
makes me feel better. Can you teach someone to sing like that technically? Yes, you can. It just takes a long time. There's like plenty of people online that have demonstrated that you can go from not having any ability to sing to having the ability to sing. But that's on a technical level to do that. It's kind of like showing someone how to shred. Like you
yeah,
can do it. It just takes a lot of the work. I think the let's not say X factor, but like the meaning behind the notes, the like
yeah, yeah.
understanding of the emotion or the how the melody will interact with the chord is a little bit different. There are people I've worked with that have had that element, but haven't had the technical ability to put the two together.
Do you
Um,
think as well it's very much like the house you grow up in? Like if you're around people where like singing and music is sort of encouraged and it's not something to be embarrassed about? Because I remember having to sing at school,
mhm.
fucking hating it. And like
Yep.
trying to like sing something and the other kids in the class like, snickering because you sound like a 6-year-old trying to sing.
Yep.
And you're just like, well, this isn't for me. And especially, I always remember being in primary school and like someone saying, why is it that in primary school it's always the girls who want to sing, but then most of the popular like famous singers are all men. And like I think about that a lot, and obviously a lot of it's like culturally mediated, and
Yeah.
there's like a lot of issues around uh, representation in the music industry historically and going forward. But like, yeah, there is that element of like, what happens? Is it just because guys become teenagers and then we become massive like peacocks? Um, and then it's like, oh, I'm crazy enough to go and sing.
Yeah. It's like, well, I'll just say it like this is the attitude. It's so stupid, but this is just the actual attitude from being a kid. It's like, why are you singing? That's gay. That's the
Yeah,
like, it's not, let me just make it clear. That's what everyone thought when we're like 12.
yeah.
Doesn't mean
And that
anything.
was
It's
the
just
word
like,
that was used when we were
that's the
kids. It's
word that
just
was
like,
used. And that's why we didn't do it because it was embarrassing. And it's like, I definitely had those thoughts when I was in primary school and in high school and stuff. It just felt like, yeah, that it just didn't, it wasn't accepted. Like nobody else was doing it, so nobody did it. And it's just like, I kind of wanted to sing. Did I ever tell you about the first time I sang? Like the first
no,
time I ever performed? It's kind of funny. It was at like a school music concert. And I sang Man Who Sold the World, David Bowie. Like, well, I think we did the Nirvana version. But yeah, it was like funny because I got up there and I sang like Scott Stapp from Creed. We passed upon the stairs,
use the
spoke a
theme song
wise
voice.
word. Yeah, it's the theme song voice, which is how I used to sing when I was much younger, and then I changed it to slightly less that of that, but maybe not that much. But I got a lot of positive reinforcement from it. But weirdly enough, I think that was because there were probably no other singers, like male singers, that day. Um,
Yeah. And people kind of, there is that thing of like, this is also Australia as well. Like, if you're on the footy team and you're a small guy and maybe you don't physically have a lot going for you, but you're like fucking brave, your
yeah,
teammates respect you, but you don't know how to be brave to start with. You're like, oh, the ball, if I go for the ball and because I'm small, I lose the contest, they're going to laugh at me.
yeah,
So when you go, you got to go like super duper hard. And then people are like, oh, yeah, you know, look at him. He's like a skinny little kid and he goes all right. That's kind of like singers if you can just cross that threshold of just being on stage, whereas
yeah,
we don't have those things around guitar playing. So,
yeah,
to cap what I was saying earlier about, legendary guitarists who, their voices aren't remarkable. It's also fine. It's their gig. They can do whatever they want if they feel like they're expressing themselves. That's
yeah,
definitely totally fine. But yeah, there's also, people who like, so, the Miles Kennedy story, like when they did Alter Bridge and Tremonti basically didn't really know that he could play guitar
yeah.
and then just heard him playing one night and was like, "You're amazing. Like, why didn't you tell me?" And he was like, "Oh, I thought you just wanted me to sing. Like,
Because like
you're the man kind of thing. This is your gig."
yeah, there's a video of him from like 1990 or 1989 or somewhere around there. You've seen that, right? He's playing like at a
Man,
guitar competition and he's just ripping like you've never seen before. It's unbelievable. And he would have been like, yeah, I don't know how old he was, but like he was pretty young. He would have been like 20, give or take. But like he did something in that video that I've like never seen before. It was this really weird, like tapping, string skipping type of a thing. It was like really cool. And then like I listened to Mayfield 4, that was his band in the 90s,
yep.
because after I got into Alter Bridge, I got into them a little bit. And they were really cool as well. Just a bit more like riffy, like no shredding. Um, but man, yeah, like that was he because he was what did Tremonti say? Like walked past his bedroom and he just like saw him like playing. He was like, yeah, that's amazing. Um, yeah, like I way prefer listening to him play a guitar solo than Mark Tremonti personally. it's um, it's
I
funny that
mean,
he's not
like
the lead guitar
again,
player in
like
that band.
Mark's got all the tricks, and Mark's great. Like
Now,
I,
what was that
I like
story about?
his.
Sorry, go.
Sorry, you go, mate.
There was a story about him. I don't know if this is true or not. So maybe you can correct me. But like, he wasn't like a shred type of a guy. Like he was a riffing like guitar
No,
player.
dude, like he sucked. Like when he was in
Yeah,
Creed initially, and there was like no guitar solos. And I remember watching videos of him and being like, eh. I mean, look, I don't want to say he sucked because like there's sick riffs and sick tones on that
yeah.
stuff. Like, but he wasn't a lead player. And
But
then
is it
I feel like Creed broke up, and then it was like there was a magazine, and on the little DVD you got with the magazine, there was a video of Mark Tremonti, and I was like, Mark Tremonti, yeah, he can't shred. When I was like 17. and that was the only metric of anyone being good. And he's just ripping like he does now. Like he was just sweep picking, and I was like, cannot compute. When did Mark Tremonti get good at guitar? Huh?
Okay,
Like,
but
and he was like, oh yeah, I just took a bunch of lessons from Michelangelo, and he was like, yeah, bro,
oh,
here's
there
how
you
you
go.
shred. So I just practice heaps, and now I'm sick.
But like, there was a story that I was going to say. There was like, maybe this is not true, and maybe
Oh, I
it's
know
not
the
true.
story you're
But
gonna bring up. Yep.
yeah, he like got up on stage at some jam thing, like a
He was
celebrity
at BB
jam.
King's Blues Club watching BB King, and BB
Yep.
King was like, oh, maybe it was Buddy Guy. It was one of these guys, and they were like, hey, you're that Creed guitar player. Come on, let's jam. And he like kind of got on stage and said he felt like he sucked, and was like, oh, gee, this is really embarrassing. There's a blues jam. I should be able to just hang.
Yep.
And then, yeah, really, really got into practicing guitar, and
Yep.
now is, like amazing.
And not a bad singer in the
Man,
in
hey,
that sort of
I
voice.
also I like Mark's voice and Miles's solos. Like that to me is pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Like
I
my
still,
favorite Alter Bridge song is Waters Rising, which is mostly Mark singing.
oh yeah, yeah. They're a good band, man. Like highly influential on you, obviously, with the Paul Reed Smith guitar and the Mesa Boogies.
Obviously. And the
Yep.
rectifiers and no, they're great. And I like it when people say Ragdoll sounds like them because like, oh, it kind of sounds like Alter Bridge. It's like, I guess it does. I guess it does. you know, there's some heavy drop tune guitars and there's a man who has a great voice doing things and that's another thing. Like Ryan's a very good guitar player and bass player, but
Mhm.
the kind of thing that is just no one else really does is his voice, where you're like, ah, that's kind of cool. Oh, you can
Yeah,
also play guitar and bass. Well, do that, and we don't need another extra person in the band.
yeah. No, he's like a singer first and foremost, though. Like
Yeah,
he's like, yeah, like as good as he is at the other things, he's a singer. Unfortunately for him.
like
So
he's a Pokemon. He's a level 100 Charizard, with like the attack just maxed out.
yeah, yeah. But just I don't know, no special defense.
I'm like a level 35 Farfetch that you just caught, and that's. But like the attack is not very high, But you're like, sick, Farfetch, he's cool.
Yep. And on that note, Uncle Len, we should probably wrap him up because I got to go do some teaching. But that
Mate,
was
you go and
pretty
do that.
fun.
Yeah, this is a good one. Thanks to everybody for tuning in again. We will do many, many more of these episodes going forward. Like, subscribe, comment, call your mum, tell her mum you're pretty cool. Hey, thanks for putting up with
Tell
all
her I
my
said g'day.
shit.
Ha.
And we'll see you next time. Take it easy.
Peace. Bye.